Steve learns his baby son is given up in a foster home by his ex-girlfriend without his consent, and when he decides to fight for him in court, he finds out that the baby was never his. Will Steve keep fighting for the baby or just move on with his life? Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like and share this video with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them to do good. Also keep watching because an important lesson awaits at the end of the video. Steve was a family-centered black man who grew up to appreciate family, so he has always looked forward to settling down once he meets the right woman, and that's what he proposed when he fell deeply in love with Lilith. Lilith and Steve looked great together and nothing seemed to get in between them. When Lilith found out that she was pregnant, immense happiness overtook Steve's heart, so he immersed himself in parenthood courses and worked double shifts to afford anything the baby would ever need. With such news came the time when Steve had to meet his girlfriend's family and get to know them. He thought of planning a nice proposal and starting the family he always wanted. Howbeit, Lilith's parents had another opinion about their relationship. Once they arrived at the parents' house, Lilith presented her boyfriend, and before she continued, the sheer horror on her parents' faces said everything they felt long before they managed to speak. "But he is," the mother stuttered. "Lilith, how could you go so far off the track? I thought we raised you better than that. This man does not look like he has a decent job, and to have his baby. You failed us," Lilith's mom screamed. Hence began the back and forth. Lilith tried explaining that Steve was a good man and that he would take good care of her, but her parents wanted to hear none of that. Steve attempted to speak every once in a while, but his voice was barely audible amid all the shouting. Race was the topic when it did not need to be so. And the worst part is that Lilith was left with the choice of getting rid of her baby and leaving Steve, or she gets cut off completely. Steve made his way out of the estate, his mind blurry and his eyes misty. He could not believe what had just happened. In such a rough situation, will the couple fight for their family or fall apart? Lilith eventually stayed with her family and she did not choose Steve, but she managed to convince her parents to keep the baby and to register him for adoption after she revealed a huge secret to them. With such a decision, she lost most of her friends owing to how she turned her back on Steve, like she never loved him. Along with putting her future son in adoption, it was something nobody could understand. After a few months, Steve found out about the adoption. He ran to a lawyer to fight for his baby son, and he was determined to raise his baby, who he learned was named Keith, even though he saw how Lilith never really loved him and how she was not bothered with giving her baby away. The lawyer asked to meet up and discuss the matter further. Steve contacted the foster home and asked them to halt the adoption process, but they said they couldn't, as the process had already started. This just became a court case. The lawyer turned to Steve as soon as he got off the phone. The months dragged on. They were the longest months of Steve's life. The more he and his lawyer tried pushing for him to have his baby, the more excuses the foster home representatives gave for why the baby was better off with them. Steve was almost giving up. It was finally his last day in court. The time for the judge had come to decide the fate of his baby. The chances looked slim, but he still hoped and prayed that the judge would favor him. But a shocking thing happened when nobody waited for it. Lilith's parents revealed their daughter's secret to the court to sabotage Steve's case, and the secret weighed on the judge's decision. Lilith had a night out with the girls during her relationship, and she cheated on Steve that night. In consequence, she wasn't sure of her baby's father. So she secretly ran a DNA test, and her fears were well placed. The baby was never Steve's. This information changed everything. It turned Steve's life upside down. He was devastated as he spent long months trying his best to prepare the best conditions for his baby Keith, but the news wrecked his dreams and everything it meant for him. The poor Steve wasn't only left by his ex-girlfriend and rejected by her family because he is black, but he also got cheated on, and the baby turned out to be not his. Once he passed through the shock of his life, he had to think of his decision. Will he still fight for Keith and adopt him or just move on with his life? Deep down, he knew he would be a terrific dad to that little boy, and nobody can ever love him as much as he does, even if he is not the real father, and if only he could show that to the judge. But soon he would know his and his baby's fate. As he sat in the solemn courtroom, his eyes focused on the judge. He felt his palms get sweaty, as he had been on that fateful day when all this had begun. When it was his time to speak, Steve stood up firmly and began, "Your Honor, I have never been a father before, but I know for sure that I will be the best dad to this little boy. I love him even though I've never met him, and these past few months have been hell for me. It doesn't matter that he's not mine, because I've already developed connection with him. Given the chance, I will show this baby whom I consider mine the world, and do everything in my power to make him happy and give him a comfortable life." He continued, the tears threatening to fall. Before he could utter another word, the courtroom doors opened, and in walked Lilith. There was a commotion as everyone in the courtroom recognized her as the child's mother. She had learned of the ruling from the press and was determined to make things right. When the uproar died, the judge spoke to Lilith. "Young lady, who might you be?" "I'm sorry for barging in like that, Your Honor. I am Lilith, Keith's mother. I came to tell the truth about what happened." She confessed to the judge how bad were her mistakes and that she was planning to get married to Steve and make him her baby's father for how good of a father he can be, but her parents threatened her and forced her to leave him. Lilith explained everything and made more sense why Steve is more suitable to adopt her kid than anyone else. Steve was ecstatic. He could not believe this was happening. Just as he was about to give up, the tides turned in his favor. He could finally have his baby boy and shower him with all the love he got for him only by the idea that he is his baby. The judge knew it would be the right choice to let Steve adopt Keith, and he finally gave him that.